Hello, I'm Vogel. I read an article today, and I think one of the issues is we have in America today is something that I have actually worked on leadership a whole lot, and that's the ability to understand how to accurately and appropriately apply empathy. And what I found out over the years is that the problem that most leaders had in applying their leadership skills, one of which would be emotional intelligence, was their lack of understanding of interpersonal communication and how that impacts delivering empathy or emotional intelligence in the broader perspective. And what brought that to my attention was an article I read this morning about why certain area of the country, specifically a small town area, voted for Donald Trump, when in the past they had voted for Democrat, but they've also voted Republican. So the history on this town is it's a fairly small town, not what I would call real small, but fairly small town. But it was a manufacturing town, and over the history, starting back in early 2000 and the late 1990s and early 2000, as they began to lose the manufacturing business to people taking manufacturing into other countries. And so those manufacturing facilities began to dissolve, and all the jobs dissolved, and consequently the facilities were basically useless. And what happened was the town began to disintegrate, and what you found was secondary and tertiary jobs that went with it, like restaurants, Walmarts, theaters, those kinds of things. They began to dwindle away also, and basically the town was left with a shell of say, if you can envision strip malls that are only half or a third full, and those are filled up with hair salons and bars and less productive community-based businesses. So people were beginning to struggle. How do I survive? They were working one or two, sometimes even three jobs to keep food on the table and the rent paid and those kinds of things. And so here is the scenario. You have a political environment, a political scene, and what's happening is one political party has basically looked at this area and said, well, they're traditionally Republicans, and we're probably not going to spend much time here because they're going to vote Republican, so we're going to put our money in other places that tend to vote Democrat. Then you have Republicans who come in there and talk to the people and want their vote for their candidate. In this case, it would be Trump coming into this category. And so what was going on with these people is they were beginning to meet. They'd meet in a coffee shop or other places, maybe a lounge or a coffee shop, 6-10 people at a time, and they'd be discussing these issues about what's going on in the community and how to deal with it and who should they vote for and things like that. And so if you can kind of imagine situation where you're losing your health care potentially, you can't keep food on the table, both parents are working double jobs, kids, it's tough to provide for the kids in school or whatever. It's a pretty rough financial environment for these people, and they're struggling with this, and they're really upset because basically what they were told the first time they didn't receive. They're basically somewhat ignored by the other party, which would be the Democratic side of the party. In other words, they didn't even come to visit and find out in this town. There's no effort applied towards securing a vote. So these people were they were you could sense they were frustrated. So here's where communication and emotional intelligence play a role in this. I wrote a book, the Navigating Conversation. It's the intersection of communication and emotional intelligence. And here's what's going on. When you're taught to listen to people, active listening and those kinds of things, you're taught to respond or mirror back behaviors so that they know that you're listening to them. So if they were angry, you would say you appear angry, and that would help people listen. And I've always said that, that's part of the process you have to do, obviously, but it is not the complete, total package that's going to deliver you what you want when you're communicating. So what's missing from these people is really the connection to the people. And here's what's going on. If you want to understand these people, if you want to have empathy for where they are, people say you have to walk a mile in their shoes, but they don't quite understand how that plays out. What are the behaviors I have to do to walk in their shoes? Do I have to be, basically I have to take my wages down to their wages. I have to live off of the $50 a week across 4 people. I have to decide which drugs I'm going to buy and not buy, if any. If I have health insurance whatsoever, I'd have to do all of that. And I'd have to do that on an ongoing basis. I couldn't just do it, know it's there, and just do it for a day or two. I have to live it. I have to feel exactly the emotions they're feeling, which creates that anger and frustration, fear, and all of those things that are basically left brain oriented activities. And so when you come in to talk to somebody like that, you have to understand that when you come to talk to them and they see you as a congressperson, $150,000 a year, you got good health insurance, you're not aligned. You're disassociated from those emotions and those feelings and where they are. When you're talking to them and you're trying to be empathetic toward them, it's difficult to do. You can actually say that you understand how they are, that you understand they're angry, and you know why they are fearful and angry and frustrated, but you don't really feel it. So you're disassociated with them during their communication with them. And so when you come in like Trump did and say, I understand, what it feels like to live with no money, it doesn't ring to them. So that wasn't what the issue was. It's not that they like Trump or they like the Republicans, and they frankly haven't delivered. But they were offering a solution that was different than the Democrats. We're going to blow up the government, start over fresh, and then I now promise you this time we've got give us the House and the Senate and we will do it. And we almost did that for them. And so these people have some array of hope. The Democrats spent no time talking to this town. They basically didn't visit. They didn't see it as any way that would help them gain the votes they need. Which means they didn't have a chance to get that feeling. They didn't have a chance to sit down and talk with people and know, and then begin to listen to them enough to begin to associate with to really feel the frustration and the fear and the excitement and the anxiety that people are feeling. And I can kind of envision this happening all over the country, because you could go in as a Democrat and you can say, look, we have delivered. Look at the economy, it's stronger. We have created more jobs for people, and we've created more manufacturing, and we have reduced the price of insulin from $400 a month to $35 a month, and you get capped at $2,000 on your drugs and expenses for seniors. Seniors are a small portion of this town. And they're a small portion of a lot of the small towns that are like this town. And so everybody kept saying, we're doing great. That's why Democrats were saying we're doing great. But they were not sitting down with this coffee group. You can go and do a open house or whatever you want to call these, and you can ask and answer questions. You can tell them, yeah, I hear, I feel, I sense your anger. But what you are not doing, you are doing all the active listening things. You're saying, hey, I can see your anger, I can see you're frustrated, I can see why you're that way. But you're not, they're not getting the sense that you feel the emotion, because you're not there working through the dialogue that you're having with these people in a way that makes them align. You're not synchronized with them. You're disassociated with them to begin with. And until you keep talking to that point where they believe that you truly are feeling their anxiety and fear, your emotion shows that. Everything about your emotions show that. Then they might be able to start coming around. You might be able to ask the questions that would help them. How can I help you? They don't believe. They can't believe, because there's no way you're just going to a town meeting and talking to them once that they believe that you're going to actually go in there and put every bit of energy you have into getting things changed that are really going to help them. And so all of these smaller communities around, even in the battleground states, all these smaller communities around, the one thing that Trump offered that the Democrats didn't offer was, we're going to tear this thing apart and rebuild it and make it right. That's going to take care of all you smaller people. Now, the dilemma with that is ethics. If you have somebody who is ethically unsound and morally unsound and will lie, the people, that's all they have to believe in right now. They may not even believe it, but that's all they've got to rely on. Okay, because there was not another solution offered up. So here's the deal about communicating. If you want to be empathetic, they have to believe, whoever you're trying to show empathy believes, has to know you're kind of sensing the emotions and all of the feelings that are associated with being with empathizing with them. So just about anybody from Congress or anybody from the government that come talk to you is not living the life you're living now. It's hard for you out here, person in America, listening to this person that's making $150,000 a year, has a government health care plan, is not worried about money, is not worried about those issues, has a job, the job is secure. Okay, these people don't have that. So you can't just go out there on a one-time trip and say, I'm talking to you. This is why all of this is going to have to be fought at the local level with people who know each other and are sensing those things and can present all of the information and all the facts. So they can in turn then go en masse and elect the people who will actually get the kinds of things done they need done. So it's the same way with leaders. When leaders are trying to show empathy, if you're in a position of power, your job is secure, and this person down here is worried about their job, and they're worried about how they're doing, and they know they're making mistakes, and the leader already has the authority to fire them on the spot, you have to be able to sit down and communicate in a way, not just where you hear their frustration, but you can relieve their tension. You can bring them, you can realign and become more synchronized with how they actually feel, so that there's a way that you can then begin to offer what's necessary. What these people were looking for from Trump and from other people were, how were you actually, what behaviors are you going to do that actually change it. And what the Democrats were doing were the right behaviors, but they were not changing them for everybody. They changed them for senior citizens, and they were saying, give us a chance and we'll do it for you too. But there was no work, there was no actual change of behavior for the average person out there that's paying their health care fees and having to pay child care and those kinds. Seniors are most likely not paying child care, less interested in that. So these are things that when you're talking to somebody and you're trying to be empathetic, they have to really sense that you feel this emotion they have and their concern and fear and excitement so much that the behaviors that you tell them you're going to do are realistic, and they feel like you're actually going to go in there and fight. You're going to do everything you can do to actually get this changed. No matter if you could be blocked 1,000 times by Republicans. There's got to be a way you can get around that and make this happen if you really, really feel it's necessary. Or are you going to just do it to a point, but then you get a little fearful of going into something that might be muddy or difficult to do? Okay, so therein lies the difference between showing empathy to somebody by simply talking to them, or do you truly feel their emotions and fear when you're talking to them or their problems, so that you can then relate back to them the behaviors that you're going to go and do, and they can feel that from you. They can feel that same emotion for you, that you are sincere about going out and getting that done. Now, the problem is you have a charismatic leader who's a liar and someone who's historically just say things to get done to help themselves, like Trump does. Then it's not that they necessarily believe him. They just don't see any other option on the table that's going to put the energy into it. When you say, I'm going to blow up the government and I'm going to rebuild it, that's the only option they see, because nothing has worked for 10 years for them. At least that sounds like an emotional behavior response that might get something done, particularly if you control both houses. Okay? Unfortunately, I think that's probably not going to happen. They're already backing off of all of those issues that they promised. And I'm sure those people in that small town are still just, every time they're hearing this, backing down and moving away from stuff, they're getting more and more and more frustrated. And again, there's no empathy for those people because Trump doesn't live their life. He can't feel that emotion. Most people in the government can't feel what's going on in the vast majority. For the seniors, yes, the seniors did feel it. I felt it when Biden made these corrections and changes. They were great for me, but I'm a small portion of the community I live in, me and the other seniors. The rest of the people haven't grasped that. They haven't seen any really active, dynamic energy behaviors that would convince them that anybody's going to make change. They're just praying if you blow up the government, and perhaps if it takes fascism to get them to a place where they feel secure with their jobs and everything, they're willing to overlook the long-term consequences of that to get this that they need now. They're at that survival and security level that Maslow has. And it's hard for them not to at least try that. Unfortunately, I think they're not going to see the consequences of that. So there is the issue. This is what I'm saying. When you're communicating with people, there's a lot that you need to understand about how you communicate empathy. You just can't go in and cite an emotion and say, I see that you are angry, or I see that you're fearful or you're upset. I can see how that happens. That just pisses people off because they know, given your circumstances and who you are, you can't feel that. You're going to have to talk with them a lot longer, get to actually know them. And that's why probably this is not going to change from Democratic Party or the congressmen or the senators. It's going to have to change at the grassroots level. You have to get together and on an ongoing basis find those people who truly are empathetic. Maybe not the lawyers, doctors, whoever. Maybe the people who are living like you're living are the ones that you want in Congress. People who will fight for what you're doing. Or at least certainly have grown up that way, or something locally that you feel comfortable that person is going to put every bit of energy into making that change for you. What I'm interested in you doing is understanding you need things that work for you. And communication is probably the thing you need the most right now. And just from leadership to government, we need it really bad. You have a nice day. I'll see you in the next session.